Welcome to Reading the Green, a golf and fantasy sports show. My name is Mike with Kyle on Tuesday, July 2nd. This is episode 116, the John Deere Classic preview with a recap of the Rocket Mortgage. Kyle, we knew we were going to be doing a lot of duo pods come league season at Jordan's Club. So again, it's just you and me. What does that mean?
Well, the thing is, yes, during league season, but I don't even know if tonight's excuse is league-based, is it?
He wanted to hang out with his wife, I think is what he said.
Something family related. He might have had some in-laws, a brother in town. Me and his brother are like BFFs, so he should have just joined. We could have welcomed a fourth. It would fit well into the 4th of July pod.
It absolutely would, but here we are, the 4th of July pod. I've got a lot of good stuff to talk about, including professional golf, but I wanted to start with something that happened this weekend, and I'll preface it by asking you a question that when you're out playing with the guys or the gals, whoever you're playing with, and you sense that somebody is playing well, what do you do?
That's a good question. I can kind of be an awkward individual at times, right? So I probably, if I was fully aware of the circumstance, and I have some questions around the circumstance, but by the time we got to the 15, 16, I might be starting to pull like a no-hitter situation where I'm just not talking about it. So I might throw out very random, oh, look at that bird over there. So
Just to try to break some of the tension a little bit or something?
yeah, but like not address what we're talking about. But I guess to really answer the question, like, are we talking just like, hey, a good round for the week, or are we talking like, hey, lifetime round, course record round? What are we looking at?
So it obviously depends on who you're playing with because I'll give you the context here. So I was playing that my wife and I played this weekend. We played our first kind of true love golf session of the summer, which love golf is a holdover from a caddy from my career as a high school and college caddy. That is when you had to play the caddy the afternoon rounds with two couples, and they're always just like they're holding hands in the fairways and they're chit chatting, and there's not a lot of serious stuff going on. Those are always the best rounds because they were so easy, painful, but easy from a caddy standpoint. So my wife and I are playing at 18 on Sunday afternoon. We get paired up with another couple, which we ended up kind of really hitting it off with. Didn't know them, about our age, young kids. Like it was actually a really fun round of golf. But I've been playing well. I mean, you played with me in North Carolina, and the game's kind of turned around. Ball striking's been really improved, and I was kind of still carrying that through to the round on Sunday, and get through 13 and I roll in like a 20-footer for eagle from off the green
Whoa.
to get my round to -3. And at this point, the other guy that I'm playing with, he's like 12, 13, 14 handicap, good guy, hits a lot of good shots, hits a lot of scrappy shots. But he's seeing me hit good shots through the day. And we walk up to the 14th tee and he just kind of stops and he's like, Mike, are you on a heater? Do
Mhm.
I need to call the clubhouse for the course record? Like, do we got to get someone out here? And I was like, what do I say? Like, okay, so I'm 3 under, and I've played a lot of good golf in my life, and 3 under is obviously a good round, but it's probably not going to be a career round. It's probably not going to be the course record, that's for sure. But if I say ho hum, it's nothing, I sound like this arrogant, prick golfer. If I say yeah, I am on a heater, then I'm kind of lying. And so, anyway, so I just was like, yeah, I'm playing pretty good, but I don't think you need to call the clubhouse. It's what I said in response.
Well, he wasn't being serious, right?
I don't know if he was being serious because I didn't know him, and he said it seriously. But I think he was just trying to like test the water of what do I need to do. And I've had this happen before. Well, actually, let me finish this story. What do you think happened on 14?
You pulled it left off the tee, uh, Left it short left in the bunker and bogeyed.
It's pretty close. I pulled it left off the tee. Couldn't find my ball in the ridiculously long rough. But it was honestly like 6 yards off the fairway. Couldn't find my ball. Played it straight up, dropped it on the edge of the fairway per the local rule, hitting 4. Hit that shot to a foot and made bogey.
Yeah.
Also bogeyed 17 coming in and finished shooting 71, which is still a great round. Like I'm ecstatic to be able to be playing some good golf, but I'm not blaming this guy, but I don't know. I just feel like that question was sort of off limits if you sense somebody was playing well in the last third of the round. I had a caddy do that to me a few years ago when I was playing in a guest day somewhere. I was like 4 under, and he asked me what my lowest score on that course was. We had 3 holes to play, and I was like, dude, I bogeyed the next hole. I didn't mean another birdie coming in, but.
So what I'm taking away here, Mike, is we can get in your head in a betting situation if you're playing well. First off, take notes of that. Book, Jordan, the listeners out there. Secondly, I find it interesting. People that you don't know would comment on it. I guess I would be more prone to comment on it if I knew the person in the situation. I'd bite my tongue more with a random because I don't want to mess up the situation.
What if it was? What if it was like 4 or 5 shots better than I've ever played, and I was just, and I'm pretty nonchalant on the golf course. Like that is that's part of my mental game, and I think it's maybe why Jordan thinks I'm no fun sometimes is because I learned at a very early age that to play good golf, you are always in the middle. You're never high, you're never low, because that creates dangerous, emotions in your game. And so I'm sure he couldn't read what I was feeling about it. Having just made eagle, I was just like, yeah, well, that's what I was trying to do. But anyways, I don't know. I don't know the answer. I think you're right. If you know the person, then you are more likely to maybe say something because like kind of where their game is at. If it's a rando, I wouldn't say anything about their round.
Yeah,
I'd ask at the end. You played really great today. How is that?
Yeah, and thanks for clarifying. You were trying to eagle the hole, Mike. That's an important note.
He did ask me on the fairway on that one. He goes, "Oh, are you gonna go for it?" I was 190 in, and I said, "Well, yes, I'm going for it. It's just a matter of what club I hit."
I think what tees were you on? You need to back up the tees. Can we get some new tees out there?
Yeah, I was playing the member tees. It's love golf, man. It's casual. Anyways, it's a good reminder that don't talk to people's ball, don't comment on their score. Like when we're playing golf, Kyle, I'm like, Kyle, you're driving the ball great today. You can say stuff like that, comment on a skill, comment on a good shot, but stay off people's ball, stay off their score until you're done. That's what I would say.
I would agree. I agree with that.
All right. Well, are you going to get out holiday weekend coming up? Essentially 4 days off of work. So how many times are you going to play?
I think I could have line of sight to 3 rounds if the weather cooperates. Unfortunately, we're stuck in a early summer pattern up here in the upper Midwest of
awful
rains, and I love the temperatures. I mean, give me this, 70s, low 80s all day with for a high. But Thursday afternoon, Friday looks pretty crappy. And I was hoping to squeeze in some rounds Friday for sure. And then Saturday morning early, like a 7:03 tee time, aggressive on a wedding day. But that's what you do before a wedding.
I don't mind 7:03 tee time. I mean, I'd play in the 6s if the club had tee times that early. That's when I like to go out.
What about you, Mike? You getting out at all? The old course out there?
The old course, yeah. We're not the old course, but the old course for me. The old club I used to belong to, we're staying out at my in-laws as like an in-town cabin for the holiday weekend, and I'm going to get out with the gang has turned over a little bit, but 7:30 on Sunday morning. Used to be called No Stroke Sundays, and it was a bunch of guys that were kind of 0 to 5-ish handicaps, and we'd play a team game, no strokes, and that was super fun. So a lot of those guys and a few others, but I'm hurt as quota points, and I usually suck at quota points, so we'll see.
I don't even know what you're talking about. So
yeah, that's just a different way to keep score.
Yeah. Up on.
Anyways, yeah, well, I look forward to it. Hopefully Sunday might be maybe the nicest day besides Wednesday, but the rest of the weekend is dicey.
Yeah, tomorrow looks nice. Can we? I should ask my employer. Can we just trade Wednesday and Friday from
I
that
trade
perspective?
Thursday,
Yeah,
honestly. Like
Wednesday and Thursday. Yeah, Thursday
tomorrow,
and Friday
tomorrow's
look
the day.
wet. Tomorrow looks beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so before we talk about some pro golf, not our not our quite amateur games, I want to highlight a couple beers I'm drinking. It's Pilsner night for me. Got the first one I drank was Blackstack Slopes. It's a French style Pilsner. Très après ski, no, French Pilsner malt and a kiss of corn hopped comfortably with French Striezelspalt in the style of a fantastically soft Pilsners in France. It's actually very good, very crisp.
I'm
Meant to sort
glad
of
I.
foil the. You didn't read that?
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't read that.
Next, I'll be getting into Split Point Pilsner from Steel Toe Brewing. I do like this one, 12-ounce can. Pretty solid.
Well, I had a little bit of a head start tonight. Went to the Twins game for exactly 4.1 innings with the little one. So I had one beer at the Twins game, and then I'm coming back with Lupulin Hooey, or one of the standard
Little
bourbon.
standby.
Yeah, at the Twins game, I had a modest false pattern, nice pale ale. I believe it's what, like 5%
Mhm.
something. So yeah, trying to slowly roll into the holiday weekend.
Well, you left a good game because looks like Twins broke the tie late. Correa home run. They went 5-3.
It's over and over. That get done
Mm-hmm.
quick. Well, we had the bedtime. Had to go early.
Of
I
course,
mean, we
of
we
course.
pushed it well past the bedtime and had some meltdowns on the way home. He did come home with Cracker Jacks, a bottle of water, and a hot dog still all in hand, and ate a piece of pizza at the game too. So the kid got his fill.
That's awesome. What a fun activity. Two parents, one kid. How easy is that?
Yes, yeah, we're down one this week, so it's like life is bliss.
All right. Well, let's run back through the Rocket Mortgage. I will be honest. I did not catch. Oh yeah. What do you got? You got something before we start?
No, no,
No,
go.
I'll be
Yeah.
honest. I didn't catch much of it. I was golfing on Sunday, and the rest of the weekend was just kind of busy. I didn't really sit down and watch, but try to coming back through some of the highlights. I think at this time most people realize Cam Davis goes and takes the win, basically on, well, would have been a playoff, but Akshay's falter on the 18th hole there just misses a little slippery 4-footer, immediately drawing comparisons to Rory McIlroy at the U.S. Open, which feels wildly inappropriate.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and to speak specifically about the Akshay 4-footer, I mean, I don't have the exact distance in front of me. He had an easy 2 putt in front of him uphill, but that's the difference in the Rory
Hmm.
one. He just left his first one short and too short, and then and made it a little dicier than he needed to, and spoke at length about this afterwards. How nerves got to him.
Yeah.
But I would say Cameron Davis. I mean, he just kind of hung on. No one went and got it. No one went and got the win.
Hmm.
Uh, I did not see much outside of Sunday as well. Uh, but I had some sweats going, Mike. It was a fun tournament for me. We talked about it last week. I'm glad it came to fruition. I love that we're back to the full field, uh, lesser named events. This is fun. This is DFS golf for me.
This is what the bettors want, is
Right.
they want to dig deep and find those edges and have a sweat on Sunday. And frankly, with Scotty Scheffler winning every limited field event, like, it takes a lot of the spice. I mean, I love watching historical golf unfold, so don't get me wrong. Like, watching Scotty Scheffler win all this, and I'm sure some people have found a way to make some money off of it. But you're right, like, it's a little more exciting to have 4 or 5 guys that have a chance to win on Sunday when they're all probably sitting at odds 40 to 1 or higher. It's fun.
Yeah. And I mean, I had my best individual single entry DFS finish of the week. I finished seventh in the $5 contest single entry. I easily I don't think winning was in the cards, but I could have finished second very easily
Yeah.
if Sunday just shook out a little differently. Uh, I Minwoo and bogeyed, well, Minwoo and Akshay both bogeyed 18, and that dropped me from third to seventh.
Hmm.
Uh, and also had Jake Knapp and Pearson Cootie Go +2 on Sunday and really pull me back. But I thought there was a chance for a little bit, and then we, not to steal the all the thunder, but we had a listener that had an amazing week as well.
You did. I'll just jump right to it. The RTG Listener League this week was won by T Nash, who I think is one of Jordan's buddies. And it was floating a lineup that got into the text messages on, I think, Saturday afternoon. That was a bit like, watch this one tomorrow, as he was at that point winning the, which one was it? Was it the Sand Trap?
It's
One of
$20.
the $20 one of the $20 GPPs, and pulled down a 5-figure payout come Sunday. Shipped it. Single bullet. I'm so impressed.
Yeah, and
But that
and he put the same lineup in the RTG
put the
contest.
same lineup in the RTG $3 listener league and goes and wins it by 100 points.
I had a fairly similar lineup from a construction standpoint, but made some different clicks. Obviously, Minwoo, Akshay. I'm impressed he got there without Davis Thompson, a guy we talked about last week, and he was an anchor that led me to a very good week finally. But he had your boy EVR, Mike.
Did.
Yeah, EVR, Patrick Rogers, and Patrick Rogers didn't have a great Sunday, which created a little bit of a sweat for him. Otherwise, then he had Cam Davis, obviously took home the ship, and Sam Stevens.
I'm a little surprised on the Patrick Rogers move. That's the one that I'm not sure how he snuck that one in there, but everyone else, yeah, you could see yourself getting there. EVR maybe as well, but got a little bit of certainly played well. So yeah, congrats to T Nash. I don't know what's bigger, the Sand Trap win or the RTG win.
Yeah, the Sand Trap. EVR is probably one I would have struggled the most to get to, but yeah, it's awesome. It was the 40K Summer Sand Trap.
All right, congrats T Nash, AJ Bentley, and JYATD finishing in second and third. Overall, I thought it was a pretty good model week. We were all over Akshay and Davis Thompson. Those are our top 2 power index plays. Those guys certainly paid off their ranking. And then we had we had a couple of landmines. Obviously, we'll get to one of them here in a second, but we did have 3 of our 9 top plays miss the cut. Wallace, Keith Mitchell, and my guy, Tom Kim. And so I'm just going to cut right to it. Survivor Reloaded. It's over, Johnny. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mike. We got so close. Would you the only one went down? Was there
2 guys went down this week? So 3 guys went down this week. I think there are 2 left.
2 left.
5K on the line. We got really close. Maverick McNeely, Cam Young was clicked in on Monday, and as the week went on, I just could not see the path to Cam Young as the safe play. I felt like there was indexing a lot on, as we talked about it, indexing a lot on one good round at the Travelers and a lot of really inconsistent play, especially early in the tournament and early in the week. Tom Kim was playing, the best golf of his short career over the last 2 months, and I said I could sleep at night if Tom Kim was going to go out and miss the cut. And just to rub it in my face, he birdied his 36th hole to miss the cut by 1. So
after not birdieing 17, the par 5.
He missed a whole bunch of 15-foot and in putts on the back 9, any one of those going. And like I was saying, I looked at the results all weekend, and that number didn't change. So it's over.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
We put up a good fight.
We put up a good fight. It gets me excited to do it again next year. And I do feel like when you're in either a 1-player or a 2-player, it's just fire your studs all the way until you have no more left. It's funny, you threw out guys, well, you could get kind of nuts and go Mark Hubbard. And that would have, a lot of other plays would have worked, but so it goes.
We knew with the strategy, it would be these 2 tournaments that would get dicey. But at least we got there to take a chance.
Yeah. It was super fun. It was a fun bit for the year. Tournament winner, Cam Davis. Gutsiest play goes to Landon Selinsky finding somehow JJ Spawn on a course that is all about bombers. We gets to JJ Spawn. JJ had a decent week. Top article was Andy Lack, who also I think I might screw this up. I put Spawn. I don't think it's right. Chris Kirk and Taylor Pendrith. And then, do you have one and done up? It's the only one thing I want to cover off on.
I can real quickly because we had a lot of people get that second place money last week. We did not have anyone go with the winner.
Yeah, Akshay was really popular.
Yes, yes. So going back to last week, we had two Minwoos, or three, four, five Minwoos, including myself, a bunch of Akshays, a Davis Thompson, uh, a couple Davis Thompsons. So we had a lot of people generate some money, but a couple of people on EVR somehow. Cameron Young, Eric Cole. That's not a click I would have made. So I mean, overall, for the given the field, we had guys, pretty well. But Tom Kim did take a lot of folks down as well. On the leaderboard year to date, we still have Champles, and he increased his lead. So we need to go get this guy. We can't let him win a second year in a row. He is up to 2.6 million ahead of Stogie, followed by Booch, A Dingus, and then we got a bunch of us all lined up there. Mike, you're in fifth. Jordan in sixth, and I'm in ninth, but we are only about 2 million apart from fifth to ninth.
We must just be some suckers if Champles is going to go run away with this thing 2 years in a row.
Yeah, we need to run him down. And I mean, that's a stretch. His lead, you have to go from like second to 10th to have the same distribution. So
Yep.
I'm counting on him having all the big guys gone. I mean, he hit Bryson at the US Open 4.3. He got 2.2 out of Colin at the Memorial, 3.6 out of Rory at Wells Fargo. Got only win from Rory all year. That's huge. Of course, he used a Scotty in a win, 4 million. Who hasn't? So yeah,
All right.
he's fired the big guns.
Real-time correction, the top contributor at the Rocket Mortgage was Landon Solinsky, who was on JJ Spawn, Chris Kirk, and Taylor Pendrith, not Andy Lack. So, all right, let's move on to the John Deere Classic. We hit this point in the season where we got struggling studs, we have up-and-comers, we have mediocre journeymen who are just trying to rack up FedEx Cup points and stay relevant. We get a bunch of golf courses that are fairly uninspiring, but these events mean so much to these Midwestern communities, Detroit, Quad Cities, Minneapolis. We can't get rid of these events because there's the golfers per capita in some of these cities is so high that there's such a big piece of the community there. But I really do fear that in the money grab that is the PGA Tour and everything else about professional golf, that these are the things that are eventually going to get remediated or whatever the solution is. I hope to God that things like the John Deere Classic don't, but I know that even in the fall, a lot of those tournament organizers are struggling with what exactly do we do with the RSM Classic and the Fortinet and all those things, right? Great for the players, not great for the rich TV producers and
Well, I'll tell you, John Deere isn't sponsoring a tournament anywhere else besides the Quad Cities. So if they want John Deere to stay a part of it, it's staying in the Quad Cities. I would say the same with 3M up here and Rocket Mortgage in Detroit area, right? So I think I'm hopeful money talks from that perspective. In addition to, you talked about how these are just great to see different events, and if we keep the same elevated structure in the near future, hopefully we get some olive branches to some of these events at some
point.
Yeah,
you would think that, and we talk about this every year we get to this part of the schedule, you would think that there's some adjustment out there that has like a rotating signature event or some way to feed these events at this time of the year into a more meaningful spot on the schedule, even if it's once every 4 or 5 years. I'm not asking for a lot for the Twin Cities to get the marquee names every year, but every 5 years is not unreasonable if you want to appeal to the golf community here. And I think that's something that the PGA Tour is going to have to want to do. The Midwest, I mean, outside of the Pacific Northwest, the Midwest really only attracts major golf like every so often. There's really not another time where big time professional golf is going to come through the area. So I hope that's part of it. But I don't
Agreed.
know.
I agree.
I don't know.
I and like
So
we talked about, I like these weeks. These are the DFS and betting weeks I enjoy.
you are exactly right. So we'll try to find an edge this week. Last year, Sept wins. He's on 59 watch on, was it Saturday or Sunday? Whatever. I think he might have been on 59 watch on Sunday, and he goes and dunks a
Mhm.
couple in the water coming down the stretch, but ends up taking home the trophy, his second win in his career on the PGA Tour. General strategy, course preview. I mean, basically, like this is a less suckier version of what we just watched at the Rocket Mortgage, a fairly uninspiring golf course. A little more elevation change. It's a TPC course. So you're gonna get you're gonna have some shot making demands on this golf course. But what are you seeing from your end?
Yeah, I think you hit on it for the most part, Mike. I do find the course more interesting, at least from my view, than some of the other courses we're putting in this similar lexicon. From a comp standpoint, I look at TPC River Highlands. I kind of think of it in the same vein as that. You got to be good with your wedges. You got to make some putts. So we just saw that as an elevated event, and I would say if that can be an elevated event, not why not some of these other ones? But accuracy does come into play here more as well, especially compared to Detroit that we just left. And you mentioned the elevation. I would say that's probably the most interesting part of the course, and what gives it a little bit of a differentiator. And there is some trouble if you get super wayward off the tee. So I am more interested in accuracy this week than I have been at some of these other courses.
Most PGA Tour stops don't ask a lot for accuracy, right? It's less about being in the fairway. It's more about being on the right side of the hole to minimize the difficulty of your approach. This course, though, is top 10, top five in correlation between accuracy and success. So I do think that this is, and I don't know if it's because this part of the schedule is just softer. So you have more of these maybe journeyman, not big hitter players that are just accurate. So they tend to do well here because the star power isn't there. Or if really the course asks for it, whatever it is, accuracy plays.
You're right. I am with you, Mike, and I'm kind of giggling at myself here that I'm like sitting in the dark with a
I
head
have no
floating.
idea what
If
you're
you're
doing.
watching, well, it was light out when we started, so I just had some natural light going, and I shut off that lamp, and now I'm if I don't have our model up, which is a very white background, and I go to Rick Rungood, which is very dark background, I turn into a floating head. So my apologies reaching the stream. Next time Mike talks, I'll go turn on some lights. Uh should we run through the model, Mike?
Please. I want
Yeah.
to I want to keep the light on your face.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. So I'm gonna preface this with I think some people are taking the week off. Not that that would surprise anyone. I'm going to call them weak and call them out as part of the DFS community. Like, come on, this is the week to go make some money, as we've been talking about. We had a good week last week. So hopefully we have a little bit more trickle in tomorrow before people go get on boats and barbecues and drink beers. But I I am cautious with what we see so far. We'll just say it that way. Uh, we have Sung Jae leading the model, 10-3 on the salary, 43% mention share, strong on the MPI. Denny right behind him at 9-5, coming at 36% mention share. And I'm sure you'll talk a little bit but more about Denny, Mike. And then right behind them, we have a quad of Aaron Rye, Kelly Craft, Patton Kazire, and Troy Merritt at 29% mention share all over the map at MPI. Out of those guys, the model likes Rye so far, who obviously was coming off the good finish last week at 10K. But then we have three guys in the sixes right behind them. I have heard some mention of Pat and Kazire popping in some folks' models. Andy Lack talked about him in his podcast today with Ryan Noonan, saying the driver there is he has some great approach numbers depending on which subset you look at, and some specific to this type of setup that they're pulling from their rabbit hole model. So I think that's why he's getting some love there. Um, I would be intrigued if you were getting, sub 5% ownership at $6,900, but if he's going to get some steam, I'm not going anywhere near that. I can't say I'm overly in love with any of those guys at the top of the board at this point. What do you think?
Well, let's start with the first name on our model. Let's start with Sung Jae Im. Now, you have a bit of a pricing debacle this week with Cantlay pulling out, Cam Davis pulling out, and Taylor Montgomery also exiting. So you end up with some spots. Where's that ownership going to go? So at 10K, in the 10K range, where's the ownership going to go? And I have a question for you that I'm reading in the community that it's not going to Jordan Spieth. Yet I'm looking at the ownership forecast that Rick Gaiman has out on his site. He's still projecting Spieth that's at plus 20%. Feels so I don't know where exactly that's going to shake out. So I want to come back to Sung Jae. Sung Jae has been a really interesting profile this year. We generally think this is an off year for Sung Jae. He has missed the cut in his last 3 major championship starts, hasn't played particularly well in big time golf tournaments, but his last 5 starts in non-majors on U.S. soil. So I'm going to throw out the Hooey Financial Group Championship in South Korea. T3, T8, T9, T4, T12. 5 top 12s in his last 5 non-major starts. He's playing great golf. And in those two cuts that he missed at the PGA and the US Open, he was awful on the greens, losing between 8 and 10 strokes putting. I'm sorry. He only played 2 rounds in those events, so he lost 5 strokes over the course of the first 2 rounds putting. Hard greens, hard conditions. Like that's, that can happen. He's still an elite driver of the golf ball. He tends to be very accurate. Basically, like he's been playing great outside of 2 major championships. So let's put him in a non-major championship on a golf course that demands accuracy. If I got to pick a 10K guy, that's Sung Jae. If we're really going to see 20% ownership across the other guys, I'll take Sung Jae.
I'm with you. I think that's the place to go at the top of the board if you're going to go there. I can't see a scenario it makes sense to click Spieth unless you're just trying to go fully contrarian. And to look
But what if he's not contrarian? There is absolutely
unless
no
you
scenario.
see an opportunity to go fully contrarian, I guess is what I'd say. Because to your point, I think people are going to end up there. Because are people going to feel comfortable clicking a 10-4 Sepp Straka, who won here last year? And I'm going to argue that they should be comfortable given his form as well. It's kind of to the point you're talking about. You go back to the Masters, T16, RBC Heritage, a very similar skill set that we're looking for here, T5. Zurich, who was T11, yes, team event, T8. He missed the cut at the PGA at Valhalla. Yes, birdie's fast. Maybe that can ask some questions, but then comes right back, T5, T5. 56 at the U.S. Open, T23 at TPC River Highlands.
Playing great golf. Sepp is playing great golf this year.
And if you look back at the leaderboard of who was ahead of him, TPC River Highlands, you probably can't find, I haven't done this, but I should have before I said this, but can you find 5 guys on that leaderboard that are in this field that are ahead of him? So yes, he's playing much better golf than he did coming into this event last year, where he had missed the cut at the 3M Open. He had missed the cut at the U.S. Open before the John Deere Classic last year. He was T64 at the Rocket Mortgage right before last year. So I think the pricing is going to surprise some people with Sepp, but I would argue that's 100% valid. So I'm kind of with you again, like we talked about last week. Not normally a huge, you got to pivot to pivot guy, but I'm going to watch very closely what the projections say in the 10K range. And if I love Sung Jae, that'd be my first click. But if it shows opportunity with the Sepp, I would not hesitate to go there as well.
And just to round out this range, and this is probably why you're seeing the ownership spread so evenly between Straka, Im, Rye, and then somehow Spieth. I still don't think that makes sense. But Aaron Rye, seventh this year in driving accuracy, like literally one of the straightest drivers of the golf ball. And again, like we're going to talk so much about that on this preview because we don't see a lot of courses that reward this for whatever reason. And again, Aaron Rye playing pretty good golf, right? Finishes T2 last week, T19 at the US Open, T14 at the RBC Canadian Open, hasn't missed a cut going back to the Corrales Punta Cana, and then had a number of nice finishes before that. And this is another guy that he's kind of been around and you're kind of waiting for him to break through, gaining in all phases of the game. Maybe he loses a little bit here or there putting. Wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Rye is hosting the trophy at the end of the week this week because he's been playing great golf too. So could be a week because I love so much downboard. Could be a week to load up on 210Ks if you think this is probably a good studs and duds week. I think you're going to have plenty of options in the 6Ks.
I agree with the take on Rye as well, Mike, especially when you look at what he's done with the putter recently, since that's always been his weak suit. And they talked about it in the broadcast this week, how he's made some changes from a putting coach and a putting perspective. He gained 4.8 strokes last week. And just one point of clarity too, when we're talking about driving accuracy, yes, we're looking at, the accuracy, but we're also looking at distance from edge of the fairway. And when Rye does miss, he's still 14th on tour. So when he does miss, it's very, he's not getting far off with it.
That's a really good point that you can't just look at driving accuracy numbers because that's just measuring when you're in the fairway versus not in the fairway. So there's certainly plenty of cases where guys are in the fairway a good percentage of the time and also 20 yards off the fairway sometimes too. But I love that. I love that take on Rye. But I'm still looking back at Sung Jae and feeling like this is a good spot for him to break through from some very good golf. But I really think you could pick one or two guys in the 10K here. Don't feel weird about paying up for Rye, Straka, Rye or Straka, because I think those guys are certainly in the mix. You want to dip down a little bit? What else are you seeing? If we go sub 10, kind of where's your next click?
Well, on that point you were hitting on there about the 10s, I do think some people, especially this week, people are going to be a little bit more casual about it, maybe not taking as much content, not as much time into it because they're off doing other things, that people might look at the pricing and maybe click a Sanjay, but I think people are going to jump down to the 9s really quick thereafter. Just inherently by looking at some of these names and not feeling good about, paying up, 10,000 for Rye or a Sepp Straka. So I think JT Poston 9-1. I think Davis Thompson, who I do love this week. We were big on Davis Thompson last week at 9-6. I think those guys are gonna draw some interest. I think the 9K range is gonna be that place this week. I do still like Mav at 9,800. We were on him big last week. If you're on him last week, why would you be off him this week? He just had one bad round on Thursday, recovered very nicely thereafter. But where I really am going to go to, I'm gonna throw out a nickname here for you, Mike. But old Mikey Thor. Yeah, does it work? Does it work?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what nationality is Thor Bjornsson. I know he's American golfer, but like where does that come from? I don't know where to go with Thor Bjornsson.
He is the son of Thorbjorn, and Thorbjorn's son, a Norwegian, and Sandra Chiang, a Zimbabwe, who is a golfer in college.
Wow.
His siblings are Victoria Lotus, Michelle Caprice, and Teresa Corneshi.
You didn't have to do that.
But he was born in Cleveland, but he resides in Massachusetts, but went to Stanford. So it's funny. I tried to research this earlier because I wanted to have a good nickname for him, and given his background, I don't know. Mikey Thor is all I got. But anyway, okay, Mikey Thor, I thought I did pretty good at those pronunciations, by the way.
You did very good.
Only $7,700 this week. That seems very cheap for me in this field. He missed the cut last week. He was not very good, just generally across the board. But I've heard some comps of this of, hey, Ludwig came onto the scene, had one hiccup last year, but then just kind of destroyed it thereafter. He had a great appearance here last year. Ludwig did. I can see the parallels. He's had the pop approach weeks. He played in the John Deere Classic. Mikey Thor did in 2023. He finished T17. He gained across the board, had a great approach week. So it's a course he can be familiar with. So if there's a place the young guy is going to pop, I like it here.
You asked me to comment on one of the 9K players, Denny McCarthy. I don't know. Denny's had two good finishes here the last 2 years. T6, T6, last two times out of the John Deere Classic. Did all the right things to do well at the John Deere Classic. Well above average in driving accuracy for the week, and putted great, which Denny generally does. But he's not typically that accurate of a player. Kind of middle of the road of the PGA Tour, under average, below average on distance, really middling on approach and off the tee this year. I don't really see when Denny's popped this year, he was T6 at the Wells Fargo, had that second place at the Valero to Akshay. It's kind of been out of nowhere. And he is on a run here of 4 made cuts. He did miss the cutback at the PGA Championship. I don't really see the stat profile fitting for this golf course for Denny. I mean, obviously, but a guy that can make putts is always going to be a risk to the top of the leaderboard. So maybe Denny breaks through this week again out of nowhere. In the 9Ks though, I think there is another JDC killer that I might be able to interest you in. And if we trust anything that we're getting from the Rick Run Good ownership projections, and if we're going to get him close to 10 or 11% ownership, I want to think about a guy that won here a couple of years ago, JT Poston, whose last 2 times out at TPC Deere Run was T6 and a win. And JTP is having a very un-JTP year. He is 10th this year on the tour in driving accuracy after not cracking the top 80 the last 4 years of his career. And yes, he does have a little bit of dip in his putting performance week to week, but we know this guy can fill it up. And it's just a matter of when is he going to have one of those 6, 7, 8 strokes gained on putting for the week. So I like a JTP this week at $9,100 who's found something with his driver that was usually the problem with his game, was he was just a little too wild off the tee. So if I can get him that low, 10, 11, 12%, I really like JTP at 9,100. Oh no, you're on mute, Kyle.
Oh no, a cough button caught me. I'm always in a JTP. This is the site of the 70-1 outright, 71 first round leader. Love it. I'm gonna bring that up every year as long as we do this. JTP, you're my boy. If we're going way down board, Mike, there's a click that's gonna be uncomfortable, but I kind of question why anyone would not do it if you're looking for a floor play, in your cash lineup perhaps. But there's a gentleman that has not missed a cut here since 2007. That has a first, 2 seconds, 2/3, a fifth, a handful of other top 20s, and finished T35 last year. Any idea who I might be talking about?
Zach Johnson.
Zach Johnson.
I was wondering if Steve Stricker was in the field, but I think he's actually won this event 3 times.
Yeah, fair. Zach Johnson, he just owns around the green here. He even rebounded from one bad putting year. He's even can gain off the tee here. If there's ever a week to click Zach Johnson, this is the week. Obviously, if other people are going to do it, you don't want to go there. But heck, if at 2%, if that's really what he's going to come in at, I'll have him part. A little cut maker action. This is what he lives for. The John Deere Classic. Everyone was playing at the Zach Johnson Foundation event on Monday, and then they go play the JDC. Why do you think Spieth's here? It has something to do with Italy.
Trying to make the President's Cup team. He's going to be a captain's pick. Ooh. Well, I don't know if I'll make my way to Zach Johnson. Honestly, 2% feels a little high. Like I'd love to see him sub 1, which maybe we will, but I don't know. I think you're right. Like you could have some fun with it. Find a lineup to play Zach Johnson in it, because when he finishes top 20, and what was his price point? 7,000. Gosh, oh man. Love to see that. I thought we might be getting him 62 or 63, but he's got such pristine history here. Let me come down in that range, though, and just continue with another player that I was feeling was maybe a bit of a misprice. And we don't have him, frankly, don't have him all that high here. He's down in the 7% mention share territory, but Jake Knapp, $7,100 this week.
That's criminal.
Yeah. It feels criminal. For a guy that honestly flashed last week and it had a 74 on Sunday, which was gross. But, Jake has had a good year. Obviously had a win earlier this year. I don't know, again, that Knapp's profile doesn't really fit this golf course. He's long, can get a little sideways off the tee, doesn't putt particularly great, but sometimes he gets on a run with his irons, and he can gain close to 10 strokes in an event, as we've seen him do earlier this year. I just think that's, like, to me, that's a misprice, and it's a low ownership play if I can get one. The only problem is I think that one's going to get snuffed out pretty quickly. And if he really does jump up to 8, 10, 12%, like, I don't need to play Jake Knapp at 7,100 at 12% ownership when I can turn around and play someone like David Skins at the same price, who's coming off a T17 and a T21, gaining a ton of strokes on approach. I'd rather roll the dice with Skins at 2% than I would at Knapp at 12%.
I think
I'll throw one more name in the same price range, Chandler Phillips, kind of the same story, can really go off with his irons. And again, if he's going to be sub 3% owned, I'd rather take Chandler Phillips down in the low 7Ks.
I like that take as well. The last guy I want to talk about, Mike, since he was popping, and we kind of breezed over this so far, is Patton Kizzire. 28% mention share at this point. I mentioned why we think he's popping, and some of the, like Andy Lack pointed out, some of the approach numbers. But I think his trajectory here is very interesting. So he finished 13th at the Sony Open in Hawaii. And then we're starting the MX January 21st. Cut. A withdrawal from a Korn Ferry Tour event. And then he comes back to the PGA Tour. I don't know if this was a sponsorship invite or what, or what was going on here. But then he T23s at Corrales. His team was T28 at the Zurich, T24 at CJ Cup, Craig Ranch, T10 at the Myrtle Beach Classic, cut at RBC, and then T20 last week. So I get why some people are intrigued there. I mean, if you cut out that first part of the year and whatever he was working through, maybe he's found something at the price point we're looking at. But 6,900, if, again, to our point, and we're not always beating on this drum, but at 6,900, if that's a guy that's going to catch a lot of steam, and so far he's getting mention share, but not high on our MPI, I'm treading lightly.
I have never hit on a Patton Kizzire week.
I would say the same about Kelly Craft and Troy Merritt as well, that are all in the same bucket right now in our model.
I think I've had better luck with Kelly Craft and Troy Merritt. And Troy Merritt, a Minnesota kid that he got out of here by the time he was in college, but a Minnesota kid that I'll always pull for. Pretty nondescript on the golf course, but with Patton Kizzire, I've been burned a couple of times, and so I'm gonna have to rationalize that somehow. I got one more name I wanna throw your way, and is it time for Daniel Berger to be back?
I like the question. I haven't dug deep enough yet, Mike, so sell me on it. But I'm intrigued. You piqued my interest.
I haven't dug all that deep either. All I know is that he's sort of back in a sense that he was completely gone for about 12 months. And he's missed a lot of cuts this year. He's missed a lot of cuts, and clearly, like, he's not putted well at all. But he did lose 4 strokes putting at Pinehurst and still finished T21. And that's sitting in between missed cuts at the Rocket Mortgage, at the RBC Canadian, had made a couple of cuts before that at the Charles Schwab, Myrtle Beach Classic. CJ Cup. He's had moments this year where he has played all right. He's 10th on the tour this year in driving accuracy. And again, if we're going to over index on one stat, and this is the week to do it because 20 some years of history at this golf course, and this is what we're seeing. It could be a week to maybe catch Daniel Berger a little bit early. I mean, we're projecting him 6% owned. I could do that. It's 7,400. We need a couple of value plays. So I want to do a little bit more reading on that. But Daniel Berger, there's going to be a week here where we can just catch him a little early. This might be the one. I don't know that it's certainly not overseas if he's playing Scottish, and I don't know that he's in on the British, but this might be a good week for it.
I like it. You piqued my interest, sir.
All right. Well, let's move on. We got a couple more things to get through here. So, name game. Been a little sloppy on name game. Got a couple of offline iterations of it. We're trying to keep up. But Kyle, you're starting to pull away. You have a 2-point lead. What's going on?
Heater, just feeling it. I love my names. I love my pronunciations. I'm just all in.
When I ran the results through, I was shocked that I didn't win. I knew I had EVR and Luke Clanton, and I was like, how did I not win? And Davis Thompson obviously had a good finish for you, but it was really Eric Cole, frankly, was the difference. Eric Cole out of nowhere. Eric
Cole's back from the dead. Usually he doesn't make it out of the state of Florida. He finally popped up somewhere though, out of the state.
Yeah, that was that did it for you right there. You had a 27-point win over me. So we move on to the John Deere Classic, and I went easy. I took the honors just because we were kind of scrambling to get the show prepped. So I went with something easy. I like when we have a really good 3-letter acronym for a golf tournament, the JDC. So let's just do it. Let's do 4 teams of JDCs. Now, what I thought was interesting is I really wanted to get a good mix of salaries, but apparently guys that have names that start with C in this golf tournament aren't very good. So we had to dip down. We couldn't price anybody really above $7,600. So you're going to get a bunch of scrubs, J, D, and C. So here we go. Team 1. I think pretty much, I don't think we talked about any of these guys yet. So this will be fun. Team 1, Justin Suh, Doug Gim, CT Pan. Team 2, Joel Damon, David Lipsky, Chris Gotterup. Team 3, Jacob Bridgman, Dylan Wu, Chan Kim. And Team 4, JJ Spawn, Davis Riley, Chad Ramey. Good luck.
This is interesting. Some interesting combos we got here.
Well, you don't even get to pick because you just get the scraps.
Yeah. So what? Who's first?
Jordan. So you're gonna go Team 2, I bet. You're always sticking with Chris Gotterup, no?
Oh yeah, Jordan always has to get Gotterup. That's a rule. All right, so yeah. I mean, this should be a decent Joel D course, huh?
It should, and that's the only thing is I kind of do. I didn't talk about him in the player previews, but I kind of do think Joel can have a good week this week.
I wouldn't mind that if a bet. I don't know. I don't remember what he was on the ads board, but yeah. So Jordan,
right, we'll give Jordan. Yep, we'll give Jordan the Team 2. I don't know. I was leaning Team 1 for the listeners. Pure laziness. I don't know why. Team 1.
I mean, I don't think so normally I would say if there's a strong, like, I don't know, narrative play, that's what I would give the listeners. Or if there's one listener in particular that really likes some golfer and that golfer's on that team. But I don't think any of these fit that. So I'm good with listener Team 1.
Right.
You get Justin Suh, Douglas Gim, and CT Pan. CT has a decent finish here, right? Am I making that up?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked it up.
I mean, he is a medalist though in the Olympics. We have the Olympics coming up, so you got that going for you, which is nice.
There is some drama as a slight tangent. Did you see like the Use Luton? He won his lawsuit in. No, he's not. Is he Dutch? Is that? I'm trying to think now. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just blanking a little bit on where he's.
I'm pretty. Yeah.
He is Dutch. Okay. Dutch. So he won.
Yeah.
Okay. So the whole bit there was that they had played well enough to qualify, but their world ranking wasn't high enough that the country would send them to the Olympics, because supposedly the rule was, if you're not in the top 100, we don't believe you have a reasonable chance to win. Therefore, we can't send you. And I read that as, you're too expensive.
Well,
It's
but
a waste of money.
the counterpoint is the last two medalists outside of
Yeah.
Xander were Rory Sabatini and CT Pan, who were outside the top 130 and 160, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah,
Yeah. No, I know. It was a bogus argument, and just like, there aren't any Dutch golfers. Like, so do they want to participate in the games or not? Like, so
yeah.
I
It was
I, I
one of
probably
those
should read
rules
up.
that just existed for no reason in the past and hadn't mattered, and now it mattered,
Yeah.
and they fixed it, right?
Well, I want Team Three coming back to this. I want Team
Ooh.
Three because I don't know what I do with, specifically. I don't know what to do with Chad Ramey, so I'm gonna let you figure it out.
Yeah, I wanted team 3 out of that grouping as well, but I'll take team 4. JJ Spawn, I mean, has he done
It could
we
he
talked
could
about him?
he played well last week, but
Yeah,
he
finally,
could
first
be a
time all
fit here.
year.
It was the first time all year.
And then Davis
All
Riley, hey, he's got a dub. He can pop up out of nowhere.
right. I want to hear about your betting card if you got one, and then you told me you got a little bit that you wanted to bring up in this section.
Well, yeah, so the betting situation, I don't know. I kind of find it funny. So Monday morning, I get up nice and early, earlier than normal, to head down to southern Minnesota, very close to the Iowa border, for work purposes. Hopping around a couple, see some customers, some job sites we have going down that way. And at one point, it's like 10 o'clock, and I look at my phone and realize, like, I look at a map and realize I'm only 2 miles from Iowa. So of course, my mindset, because I had listened to podcasts on the way down there about golf in the takes this week, and maybe the course previews who we should be looking at. I'm like, well, I got to fuel up. I'll just run into Iowa and play some bets.
Mm-hmm.
I glance at the odd boards real quick, kind of cross reference that with what I was thinking on who I should play, jotted down some quick plays, and then, like, all right, start driving again, get to Iowa, go to fuel up, get a beverage, come back out to place my bets. That is right as apparently Patrick Cantlay withdrew. So the odds boards go down on DraftKings. And then I was like, well, I have a FanDuel account too, so I'll log into FanDuel. Well, it said I hadn't logged in for so long that it wanted me, like, to do a dual authentication process. I did that, and then it let me log in, and it kicked me back out, even though at that point in time I was sitting at the FanDuel Sportsbook, and that's right on I-35, right when you get into the
Oh,
state of
really?
Iowa. Yeah, right on Highway 9. I'm like two
Yeah.
miles from the border, and there's a FanDuel Sportsbook.
Yeah.
It kept saying, then it kept telling me my location was invalid because it thought I was still in Minnesota. I'm like, I'm at your sportsbook. Anyway, frustrating scenario. And at this point in time, I wait around for a little bit, and then I have a call, so I need to get back on the road. So I'm like, well, does DK have anything up for the John Deere Classic? There was no individual odds, but it offered me one market, first round leader plus to win. So I have one bet in for one unit on Sung Jae to win first round leader and to win at 120 to 1, just because it's the only thing it would offer me.
That's pretty
Well,
fun. I like that.
yeah.
I like that. But that's effectively what 2 years ago you got JTP for. You said 71, and basically paid you 140 to 1.
Yeah, if it's gonna happen anywhere, it's gonna happen here.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So my hypothetical card, the card I was ready to place, was JTP at 30, Davis Thompson at 28, Seamus Power at 80. I thought that was a really good number. Mark Hubbard at 70. I just thought that was a good number. And then our boy Mikey Thor at 110, which seemed asinine given where he was last week. So those are the five losers, hopefully. And Sung Jae is just going to go wire to wire now. And Bama. And have a great weekend.
Oh, man. Man, well, when you're back, I don't know if you got to swing back through Iowa at some point in the next couple of weeks. We're going to have to load up on Open Championship plays.
Yes, I will be back. It should be perfect timing in about the 13th.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I want to round out. I want to close the loop. Our opening topic, we talked about how do you talk to somebody when they're playing well on the golf course, and we just got some intel from Jordan, who's not on the pod, obviously, but
Oh.
reported that he shot a 35 tonight on his league night.
Jeez.
Yeah, and this is coming off last week where I think he shot 46, and I believe it's a par 35, so Jordan was even par. And he said that he was 2 under through 7 and bogeyed the last 2 holes. So immediately my first question was, did anybody say anything to you on the eighth tee box prior to making those 2 bogeys? I also asked him how he made his 2 birdies. He said that he hit a 6-iron 165 yards to a foot on the par 3 third, so it must have been playing straight into the wind. And then he made a 15-footer for birdie on the 5th hole. And again, I reiterated, did anybody say anything to you? And he said someone said something to him on 5 or on 6 about how good he was playing. Bogey's 2 holes coming in and shoots even par.
Yeah. See, don't talk. Just let it be, people. It's not
Just
for
let
you
it
to
be.
point out. They know it. They know it. The player knows it. They don't need you to vocalize it.
There's literally nothing you could do. And I want to go back to, I'm gonna tell one more really quick story. Club Championship 2020, when I had this very epic Sunday to come back and win. And my father-in-law, who's been next to me for a lot of really, really good rounds, he was finishing up his round. He's kind of at the clubhouse doing stuff, and I was making the turn. He joined up on 12 green, and he went up to one of the guys who've been following our group for the whole day, and he said something like, and he'd had a handful of drinks at this point, and said something like, "Oh, I'm going to go and caddy for Mike," and this other gentleman was like, "Brad, he's 6 under through 11. Let's just give him some space." And I really appreciated that, because not that like I felt like I was in a really good place mentally, but I did not need like 6 beer Brad coming in
Yeah.
and getting his hands on the bag at that point.
Props to that dude. Props to that dude for sure. Yeah. Well played, gentlemen.
So you're right. Let's just let it be. Enjoy it from a distance. Let it be. You can talk about it over drinks after the round all you want, but just let it be in the moment. I think that's the parting advice from this show. All right. Well, I look forward to another week of hopefully good DFS results. The John Deere Classic tends to be pretty good for RTG. You can follow us on Twitter all week long at RTG Podcast DFS. Like us and subscribe on YouTube, Reading the Green, and any major podcast platform. So we'll be back in a week with the results from the JDC and look ahead to the Scottish Open. See ya.